Fishing is by far one of the toughest times to fish all year. It's our first time we've had a little bit of cold weather this year. The last 2 weeks is getting down into the low 40s, sometimes upper 30s in the mornings, but it still warms up really nicely. In my opinion, patterns are more difficult to pinpoint, and oftentimes YouTube videos, they just overgeneralize fall fishing, putting everything into just one single box. Do this, use this lure, catch bass. It's really just not that simple. Most frustrating part in the beginning is you may not do a lot of fishing. You have to, right here, a lot. Let's start on this road bed here. A little bit of road bed in conjunction with the point, should have some timber. Once Ray and I discovered the area that we wanted to fish and had all the elements that we needed to catch bass, we decided to pick our baits and pick our colors to fish that specific area. This is a 2.75. Ray is hooked up. No, he's hooked up with some wood. I'm gonna be completely honest, we got pretty lucky. We found food relatively fast and some structure that we had already identified as probably the predominant structure that we would see in the lake earlier in the day. Yeah. You got him. I don't think you're gonna be, yeah, there you go, give yourself a slack. Oh. Hey, I'm about to roll and mark that one. Son! Hey, son!
That's a chunky one.
Yeah, let me get one. The technique that we use to catch these bass is called doodling. This is an old technique, at least 35 years old. It kind of originated in my areas in the Carolinas, Georgia, parts of Tennessee and Alabama. And we use it to catch bass extremely deep, usually in the fall and winter. Just an open hook, and that's it. There ain't nothing fancy about this. I'll take those all day. Today is just get around those roads and the timber. You see you got a ditch. A ditch runs into there, like that. Fishing that. This is what we're doing. Fishing that little ditch right there as that road runs in. That's pretty much almost identical. Look at that. All the bait and stuff in there. Day, it's calm, so it lets us control the boat a little bit better. Lets us look at our electronics really easily. So I'm excited about showing Ray how to use his electronic to find fish, how we're going to use the maps to find fish. First day was really successful. We caught a lot of fish, and we adjusted to the conditions that we were presented with that day. Today we're working on my buddy Ray's boat, just tightening up a few things. Some cord management on his Recon. You can see Ray has, he's got 3 units. 3 units on this, HDS 12, HDS 9, is that right, Ray?
10 and 9.
10, and then 2 9s on it. It has 2 up at the bow, 1 at the console here. And what we're doing with the Recon, the autopilot trolling motors, cable management can sometimes be an issue. So Paul is installing, what's the name of this bracket, Paul?
It's a cornfield crappie. It's a
holy smokes, a cornfield crappie.
Cornfield crappie.
Cornfield crappie.
It's a cable guard, so it allows the transducer cable not to get tangled whenever you stow and deploy the trolling motor.
It's gonna be a lot better. It's gonna be a lot better for you.
So normally what we would do, so it has a cable coil that comes from here, it coils up all the way to the front, it holds it out in front of the trolling motor, so you don't have to worry about it ever getting tangled. There's enough slack there when you hit spot lock that it doesn't ever get tight.
It never tightens up even when it's spinning around in a circle like it does a 360. On day 2 of our trip, we spent some time with certified Lowrance technician Paul Geddes, and he helped us dial in Ray's electronics to a T.
So if I see a rock pile right there, and it's hitting right there, and if I pause it, okay, at that point, where is that rock pile in relation to where my butt is?
Okay, so if you actually look, I'm gonna put my other glasses on here.
As we hit a road bed, or what it looks like.
Yeah. All right, so so this is basically, once the deeper we get, what's gonna happen is, so we're looking at 120 feet right now on each side.
What's
That's what I was getting ready to say. Right over here. Look at him. See him?
After learning how to use scout mode and learning a little bit more about some of the new Lowrance updates and new color palettes, we finished up our trip on day 3 doing nothing but reaction baits. So we finished the trip out learning how to catch bass on jerk baits, crank baits, and other reaction baits in windy conditions. They're not on the bottom right now. There he is. There he is. Feels like the best one of the day so far. Yeah, you got the assist. Alley-oop. Be the best one of the day. I had on the jerkbait was a big one. He was the kind. This one's not that big, but he's better than what we've been catching, I think. That's my favorite way to catch him. Yeah, he's not that big. He's just got it sideways, and he's just still a nice one, man. It's still a nice one. Very simple. You can see there's the channel marker right there close to where we're fishing. Just fishing the channel swings. If you're interested in being part of the Straight Up Fishing Elite Angler Academy, just let me know. Reach out via DM or in the community section in the app. All right, y'all. So you probably saw last week, Ray and I were fishing here in South Carolina. He decided to sign up for the Elite Angler Straight Up Fishing Angler Development Academy. And it was really interesting. I learned a lot in those 3 days of fishing. I intentionally, since I knew I was going out with Ray, and I wanted to be more about how to find fish. When these academy trips are not about, these are not guide trips. These are all about learning how to break down lakes the way that we talk about here in the app. So intentionally, I haven't fished the lake since we had the retreat in March. I have not been on Lake Russell. And so I wanted to keep it that way. I wanted him to catch fish, but I wanted to keep it that way so he could see firsthand how you break down lakes. And it opened my eyes to a few things that there were a couple things, and we'll see, Ray, what I'd love to hear what you learned too. But and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Number one, there was a old yet new technique that we use to catch a lot of our fish. If I've taken quite a few people in the app fishing with me, so Tim has fished with me using this technique. Jaden has, Brian Barty has as well. But I feel like every fall I perfected a little bit. Chris and Destiny also fished this way with me. It's called doodling. We're going to talk a little bit about that as we get into the live. Ray's already told me that he's used it in Florida. I always assumed that from, I don't know, let's say Georgia north. It really originated, like I said in that intro clip. South Carolina, Georgia, parts of Alabama, Tennessee is where it really started, as far as I know, of course. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But Ray, first thing I want to ask you, just straight up, right off the rip, I want to jump right into it. In those 3 days, I'd love to hear what you think was the most valuable, most impactful thing, or something that maybe you didn't see before the trip that you saw after, or understand better after those 3 days of fishing. I want to share what I learned too.
Well, I think the overguiding principle of what really gave me value. A lot of it was information you've been talking about for a very long time. Some of it was new information. Obviously, the session with Paul was amazing. But I really do believe that putting everything together, we hear, because you can only teach so much in a segment. Putting everything I've heard over the past year together and seeing it in action, really, it takes it and it all gels together, and it makes it so much cleaner. The last thing I had said after we were done with Paul, before our final day there, I've been able to see before. Just an analogy, I could see. But after this, it's like somebody came in the room, turned on the light, put on my glasses, and said,
Yeah.
"Look at that picture," and it was right there in front of me the entire time. There's some things
Yeah.
you just can't teach over Zoom.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. I think about that too. What you just explained is literally what happens to me every time that I get to spend 2 or 3 days in a row on the water. It's not often other than tournaments, that I get to spend more than 1 or 2 days on the water. It's usually I need to go to the lake. We need to film this video for the app. I need to go to the lake, and we need to do what. It's always an agenda. But this time, being able to actually focus on fishing and what was happening around us, like that what you experience is the light coming on. It happens. It keeps happening over and over and over. I want to dig deeper into that too, like what exactly it was. And for me, we talked a little bit about this. I should have got a screenshot to show everybody. We talked a little bit about this when we were out there doing the doodle deal. For y'all that wonder what doodling is, I'm going to get more into the specifics of that here in just a bit. But I know when I took Barty, I think this was in the spring of 23, I think it was, so almost 2 years ago. You remember, I don't know if you remember or not, when we were fishing deep, that 30 to 40 foot range, there was one specific type of tree that we were looking for that you
That
could almost count on. It wasn't every tree, but if you saw them, they were in that. You want to tell them about what that was? I wonder if I got a screenshot of that somewhere on Dropbox.
actually, I saw it in one of the segments you had posted. So
Has to be.
getting into the fields of trees, every pun intended. They're that's the area we wanted to be in. But when we found they were 30-foot laydowns. They were almost a 20 to
Yeah,
30-degree angle from the bottom. It was like almost like clockwork.
almost like clockwork, dude. Yeah, yeah. So to explain, I'll explain this.
Oh, you froze up, Brian.
Is the wind blowing, Brian?
So when you go in these fields of timber, and we'll get into I'll show you some clips from the day of fishing, but all this timber is all vertical, all vertical, all vertical, and then every once in a while you'll see one piece of timber laid 45-degree angle, or maybe just laid on the bottom like a cedar tree or something like that. And in between the bottom and that cedar tree, it almost makes like a little cavern, almost makes like a little, like just a little hole.
As you described
Every
it,
single
voids.
time when yes, just a void. That's all it was. Just a void in that tree. And they would sit under there. You could drop your bait down. You'd see your bait going down. And then you see the fish coming up to get it. It was so much fun doing that. So let's I was about to go a different way, but I think we should explain to everybody what doodling is, and and just kind of talk about the retrieve, the setup, what we were using. I think that'd be a good place to start right now. Um, so, Ray, so obviously, I want to say that was the first time that you caught fish doing that technique. I'm pretty certain, right?
Yeah, in salt we did a different version of that, but yours is so much more finite and detailed.
Okay. So let me explain what this is. So doodling is you'll see in some of these clips, and I have one. Michael, let's look at that thing. I might actually pull one up now. If we go to, I have them segmented out. So it's going to be that first one. I think it says, not the screen grab, but the next one. What it is, we take a soft plastic. It can be on a jig head. Back when I first started, we were just doing a Texas rig finesse worm, dropping it down. You'd put like a 3/16 ounce sinker or 1/8 ounce sinker on a Texas rig finesse worm. You drop it down directly under the boat. Hold it right there, Michael. You can just leave it right there for right now. You drop a Texas rig plastic directly under the boat, and you let it go down to the bottom, and you just doodle it. Just shake the rod tip. And the way that I always explain it to Ray or anybody that fish with me, lay your rod tip on the water and just shake it in place. Just use the water as a litmus of not living the rod. The water is always going to be level. Just shake it right there on top of the water. Almost just try to just splash the water with your rod tip. You're going to see me doing that. Just splash the water with your rod tip. And that's all it is to it. Don't shake it. Don't bop it. Don't boop boop. Ray, you'll tell. So Ray, tell them about how it was when we first started. What was the first tendency for you to do when you drop your worm down?
It was I was shaking the heck out of it. It was no, it's it's too much. Other than saying the hello, that's I'm sure something you're going to get into.
Yeah.
I used, just like you didn't say that, but as you described it here, I used the water after watching you as the guide as to, okay, just a little bit under, a little bit over, and keep it right. Just you're only moving it that much. I mean, here's my finger, that much, and that's all that you needed.
Yep. That's all it takes. You got to think, even in 30 or 40 foot of water, that's not that long. That's not that deep. We say that's deep water, but 30 or 40 is just barely longer than your boat. Just barely, like your boat length and maybe another rod. And you just shake that rod tip right there on the surface of the water, and that worm is doing a lot more than you think it is at 30 or 40 foot. That's you can pitch out a jig 30 or 40 foot easily. Just pitching a jig. That's about how far you're doing it. So imagine if you take a jig, pitch it 40 foot, shake the rod tip, you put a lot of action behind it because it's not out that far. Same thing, you're just dropping it right under the boat. The reason that we drop it directly under the boat, specifically on this lake, is because we are fishing these huge fields of timber. I have a screenshot that I'll show you a little bit later, but we're fishing these huge fields of timber. And when you're fishing those huge fields of timber like that, you have to drop it straight down. If you try to make a cast out and bring it back through the timber, you're just going to snag. It's just you're going to pull your bait right into the timber. So you drop it straight down, and you don't have to worry about hanging up as much. You're still going to hang because the boat drifts off and so forth, and you eventually get snagged. And so that's all you're doing, and you just take your trolling motor and you just kind of look around with your electronics. For years, we did this. I was introduced to this like in the mid '90s. I would say somewhere in the '90s, early '90s is where this started. So it's a 30-plus-year-old technique, but it's kind of got lost with forward-facing sonar because people want to cast to their fish now. But you drop that bait straight down. Mike, you want to roll that clip? We'll show you exactly what it looks like.
He got him. All right.
So Ray's got my rod tip.
Him.
I want to say this is Ray's deepest. This is probably the deepest he caught a fish, I would say, wouldn't you, Ray?
There were so many, honestly. It's hard to remember which one was the
That's one
deepest.
today, Ray. Holy smokes. I don't
Yeah,
think
it's probably 30, 35 to 40 foot deep. I would say this one was probably as deep.
You might have to
Yeah,
go
our
there.
majority
Right,
was around 35.
Oh, that's a good one, Ray. Yeah, you got it in my line, so I just left it slack. Look at that thing, bro. Hey, I'm about to roll the Martin that one. Son! Hey, son!
That's a chunky one.
Yeah, let me get to a line over there. We'll cut it if we have to.
You've been eating Arby's.
Oh, yeah. I like
He
that.
said he'd been eating Arby's.
You can cut mine if we have
That
to.
was a fat
I
one.
want to get a picture of that one. Good job, bro. You remember I said I saw that one right there when he was dropping it. I saw him chasing yours. God, look how fat that thing is.
Hey, I'll tell you what. If he's better than 16, it'd be an upgrade
Yeah.
in my tournament.
Yeah, that's right. Cause you want it. Yeah, you need to do that, right?
Okay, so we can stop it right there, Michael. We can go back to full screen. So that's all it is. I know you wanted me to give you. It is a new technique for a lot of you. It's an old technique that's kind of got lost in the sauce. We just not many people use it anymore. With the electronics that we have today, most of the time people just don't do that anymore. I can tell you its origin is for years we just used to use a lead jigging spoon that way. And then as we got more spotted bass in our areas, for whatever reason, we just started switching over to plastics, dropping a plastic straight down below the boat. And that was the evolution of it. We started out with the Texas rig and then later on moved to a shaky head. And then somehow along the way, somebody figured out how to put just like a fluke or a minnow style. We call them minnow baits now on a jig head and dropping it on fish that you would see on your locator. I remember when I was a kid, 8, 9, 10 years old, we didn't have LCD screens where you could see the bait moving or the fish. My dad only used to use a flasher to do this, and he could see, like you would see the flasher would fill up with red, letting you know that you're around bait. Or you would see like the flasher it'll be marking right there in 30, 30, 30, and you'd see it like blip up a little bit. That's how people used to read a flasher that way. It was actually a really good tool, but when we progressed to the LCD screens, I would say that was definitely the late 90s. LCD screens, LMS 350s, the X70As. That's what my dad has back in the day. You can look up that on the internet. And that's when things got really interesting and fun to do this particular technique on. So it's new, yet it's old. I'll show you guys some of the baits that we fish. that week too. A little bit later, I didn't think about. Actually, I do have a cube right here. Y'all stay right there. Hold on, I got the cube right here. I want to see this is the right one. Hopefully, it is anyway. So it's a bait that I have. Pretty sure we have it on the website. I've talked about it a bunch, and I actually did not use it much until as of recent. This is the back. I haven't used this bait much until the last 2 years. And this bait that I'm about to show you, I mentioned it in that video. It's called a drop kickers. Ray, did you try any other bait besides the drop kickers? I can't remember.
We had so much success on the smaller that we played with that a little bit.
Right. So I've talked about this in the app a bunch. This one, that's a little bright in it. Let me turn that down. It's a little bright. Can you see? Will it focus? Probably won't quite.
Oh, that's what we cut the majority on that.
Yeah, this one right here. It's seeing my eyes and it's trying to focus on it. Let me hold it that way. That one right there. Shiner. And the drop kickers. This is Z-Man plastic, of course. Salt got in my eye. That's less than ideal. But we just put it on a jig head. Just put it on a little. Actually, just using a Ned jig head. Just a regular Ned head, 1/5 ounce. I'll show you how we rigged it. It did color. You know, I have favorite colors, but color didn't really seem to matter a whole bunch. Gosh, that's salt. I stretched that plastic and the salt popped up in my eyes. Okay, so here's what we did. This is how you rig the Z-Man zinc. I was about to say Z-Man zinkers. This is how you rig the Z-Man drop kickers. So there's two sizes. There's a 2.75 and a 3.5. We were just taking it and hook exposed, just like you would rig a little swim bait. I wouldn't normally throw I wouldn't think this. I gave y'all the story on this bait. I would not normally look at this bait and say this would be a good doodle worm. I wouldn't. I had to do a photo shoot with this back in May or so of last year. And then we caught the crap out of them. And then I haven't put it down yet. When I fished with Chris and Destiny last fall, we started using them. I had been just using my number one bait for years has been this right here. It's been that guy. I think I tried it with us, didn't I, Ray? Didn't I try this one a little bit?
Yes. Yep. It seemed to be a little bit large for their appetite that day.
Yeah, just that day, this wasn't the deal. And the drop kickers was. I think perhaps maybe also it has a little bit less action. I actually like less action in a lot of scenarios. I think that gets bites better this time of the year. Was there anything else that we needed to talk about with that bait, Ray? I can't remember. Bait technique, rod, reel technique.
You covered it. The only advice I have is to use a longer reel or rod. I started off with a 610, and even me being short, I had to bend over too much, so I had to go to a 7-footer, just so I didn't have to bend over. But that was basically it. Oh well, you do have to talk about saying hello.
Yeah, we should talk about that. So, a couple things. I want to reiterate that what you said about the rod. I use my same rod that I use for everything else. That 7-foot, that level 7-foot signature series. But the thing with it, I do use braided fluorocarbon, 10-pound test braid. I use, in that particular day, was I using 15-pound test fluorocarbon?
I think you had 12. Because I had the same. I had 12 on as well.
Yeah, 12-pound test, Bass Moosh fluorocarbon. I used to use small fluorocarbon thinking that was going to help me get more bites. Listen, folks, do what you want to. You can listen to who you want to. I've tried that. I have not found smaller line to make a difference in me getting bites. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to go out with 25-pound tests. I'm just saying the difference between 8 and 12, I haven't found it enough to matter. If you do, make a video, show us. I want you to show us. I just don't have the evidence to prove that it works. Hey, Ray, we got to talk about this. Did you not try several different scents while we were out there?
I tried using one type of scent to see if it made a
One.
difference,
Okay.
and I don't think we gave it a fair shake. I didn't notice too much of a difference.
Yeah. Try bait fuel. Did you try
Never.
bait pop too?
Oh no, I tried to spike it on the larger fluke style. They're all fluke
Right.
style, but yeah. But that was
Yeah.
I think I broke off on a limb after 2 drops or something like that.
Yeah. So Ray did try some bait fuel. The spiky garlic. That was garlic flavor or garlic flavor.
Yes.
Garlic scent. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think he did definitely catch some on it, but I don't for time.
Yeah, you froze again. But it didn't discourage them, put it that way.
I felt like was the yeah. Um. Okay. Let's see. Where were we? Okay. Rod reel deal. So I did use. I'm gonna turn that light back on. It does get a little light. So rod reel, I did go with the 7 foot rod. Like Ray said, he had a smaller one. He went to a little bit longer just for comfort. And I had a 7 footer. I had 3,000 series reel, 10-pound test braid, 12-pound test fluorocarbon. What was your line setup, Ray? Was yours the same?
Same as yours, 10 and 12.
Yes. Yeah, 10 to 12. That's my setup for everything. Saltwater fishing, 10-pound test braid, tied to whatever type of fluorocarbon I like. Now you did mention some stuff about there's certain braids that has such a thin diameter they're really difficult to work with. You want to elaborate on that?
So I was testing some specific very thin Japanese PE braid. It's micro thin. 18-pound test, and you look at it and you think it's almost like a spider web. It's really, and it's great for casting. It is amazing for casting. But the problem is it's so thin, regardless of the knot. If I tied an Alberto, it's going to cut right through the fluoro. I actually had a magnifying glass looking at it. I tied an FG, and it just wouldn't hold, no matter what I did. It's a shame because I wasted a bunch of money on it.
Yeah.
Whether the 18, matter of fact, the 12 pounds test, that was so light, even with a little gust of breeze on a spinning rod, it's wind blown all over the place. It's again great for casting, really, if not good for any type of terminal whatsoever.
I, I agree that that's definitely been something that's been my experience too with braided line. This is not like a company bashing deal, but I used Seagar for a long time. Seagar Smackdown is very thin diameter braid, and in times past, a very thin diameter fishing line has always been desirable for whatever reason. But I found that that very, very thin diameter braid works against you for everything that Ray just mentioned. So, number one, it makes it very difficult to hold a knot because the diameter is so thin that when you go to cinch down your knots, especially a line to line connection, it can slice through your fluorocarbon. It just doesn't hold a knot as well. It's almost like using a very sharp knife versus a butter knife, is what it's like. Now, if you try to cut a piece of paper with a butter knife, it's almost impossible. But cutting it with something that's very sharp, a sharp knife, a razor blade, it just cuts it like paper, like butter. That's what it's like. So yeah, I didn't like it for that reason. The other thing is Ray mentioned it blows around a lot. Very thin diameter, light braid. It blows around. You go make a cast and get a huge bow in your line, so now your bait's not getting down to the desired depth. Those little things can keep you from getting bites. It really can. A huge bow in your line, not being able to tie your knots. Those are really the two biggest things that I've noticed with fishing line. But I'm sure there's a lot of other things that people can acknowledge too. Like Ray said, it's going to cast much farther. So if like you're using really light lures, yeah, that really thin braid is good for it. But for knot tying and just overall line management, it can be a booger. So I don't like that. I've been using the Bass Mooch. It's a pretty good diameter. It's big enough to where,
You don't get a lot of wind knots, and it holds a knot really well. The other solution to that, if you ever run into a line that has a very small diameter, you could just go up on your pound test, where I normally use like 10, 15 max on the spinning reel. Maybe you can go up to 15 or whatever, 17, 20 pound test. But for most companies, 10 is going to be the best, in my opinion, for all different sizes of fluorocarbon. Is what my experience has been.
I lost a Mactoon fish at Mactoon's pond because of that.
Yeah. The line to line connection broke. Was that what it was?
Yes.
Yeah.
we just shook our head like, what do you do?
Yeah. And which line to line do you use? I use
That
Alberto.
one was an Alberto. I was using Alberto for the longest time, and then I switched to an FG just for the noise. That's basically what it came down to, just the noise going through and trying to get further casts. Nothing wrong with the FG. It was something wrong with the line. And when you lose a Mactoon size fish on his thing, and that makes you want to rethink things, because
Right.
He doesn't catch
I'm
up.
surprised. Did Matt give you a hard time with that?
We just all looked at each other after. Even the fish laughed at me after it breached out and shook the jerkbait around in the air. I think, really.
Yeah, I've had similar issues with it. I just finally quit using the small diameter line. I will say this on the knot deal, the FG is better knot. That's unquestionable. I just don't have time. I don't do it. I just don't do it. It's definitely by far a superior knot to Alberto. Alberto is a little bit bigger. You're going to hear it going through the guides, especially using a technique like what we were doing, where you're dropping directly beneath the boat. The FG is going to come through the guides better and let you get your bait down deeper, faster. That's definitely a thing. So yeah, I would sign off everything that Ray just mentioned. I've experienced the same thing, and I feel like the gear part, I've done this technique enough to kind of get it dialed in to what works the best, what's most efficient. Last year, I experimented a lot with straight fluorocarbon on doing the doodle technique. That works really good for getting your bait down, just going straight fluorocarbon on your spinning reel, but you're only going to get a trip or two out of it. That's about it. This is something I want to talk about. I feel like I talked about it in a live already, but I want to reiterate this. So when you're going straight fluorocarbon, you do get a lot of line twists. And one thing that people it's a hot topic right now, is reeling against the drag when you're fighting the fish, and how that puts twist in the line. Before I say anything else, they're right in what they're saying. Every time you hear drag noise and you're reeling against it, it does put a twist in your line every single time. Here's the thing, it just don't matter. Not enough. Will it twist your line? Yeah, it does. But I don't think people realize, when you're fishing any type of lure, especially like this, when you're fishing that lure, it's always twisting your line. When you reel it in, it's twisting your line. I'm gonna tie it on the rod right now. I'm gonna show you something. When you're just holding it up, I know people get mad when I bite line like that. Boy, I got tiger teeth. These are tiger teeth. I'm gonna show you something right quick. I'm gonna tie this bait on my line. This is fairly big line because it's on a bait caster. It was just the quickest rod I have close to me. I want you to watch this. Watch how many times this line is gonna twist. Just hold it. 1, 2, 3. See how it's twisting. You imagine when you really get to shaking the rod tip, that bait is twisting. Look at it twisting. You see that? It's always twisting. That right there is twisting way more than them 5 cranks that I did while the drag was peeling out on my spinning reel. It does twist it, but most of the time when you get really bad line twists in your spinning reel, that comes from just fishing. A drop shot is notorious for putting a lot of twist in your line. You put a drop shot on straight fluorocarbon, you might get a day out of it at best, especially if you have bigger pound test line. So line twist is just going to be just law of attrition when you're out there fishing, especially with straight fluorocarbon. Braid is more supple, so it just handles those line twists way better. I'm not telling you to go out and start reeling against the drag. You don't want to do that. But there is a fine line to where I think it's acceptable to give a little bit of a little bit of reeling against the drag. It's almost like I want to be ahead of when that fish stops making the run just by a little bit. If I wait to when he finally stops pulling drag to then start reeling, sometimes it's too late. But you can lose the fish. I'm just maintaining that line tension by keeping that reel going until I can get him coming back my way. And sometimes that is going to be reeling against the drag just a little bit. I'm not talking about one spinning out and you just cranking against it. No, don't do that. But just a steady, just like just turning. Okay. I'm gonna do it. Y'all do it. I'm gonna do it every single time. Yeah. If you got a fish on the end of your line, you done did something right. So you done did something right. That's my take on it. But y'all do what you want to with that. That's just something that I've been watching and hearing, and figured I'd give you my political post on it here tonight. Okay. Mike, can we?
I was
Let's
going to
go.
say,
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
I was saying
No, go.
one of the funnest parts of doing this team style, like we were right next to each other, was
Yeah,
when we
yeah,
would bring them up, say hello at the same time without knowing it, and the fish would
yeah.
go, which one, which one, which one, and one of us
Yes.
would get it. That was great.
Yeah. I need to do another trip like that, but then put the SD card in the graph so we can record some of that. Because you can record, you can screen record.
I
Um,
thought about putting one in mind before the trip, and
I
calendar beat
usually
me.
do. I usually do. It's a lot going on already. And I wanted to get the most out of the trip. It's just one more thing you got to manage. Um, but yes. So what Ray's talking about, I started calling this the hello. So every once in a while, most of the time we get our bites when the bait is on the bottom. You're fishing 30, 40 foot, bait's on the bottom. Every once in a while, there'll be a fish just kind of just floating. I call them floaters. They'll be floating up there 20 foot, 25 foot, suspended. Well, my bait's down there at 40. What do? Well, you don't just sit there and keep jiggling it on 40 and hope that he's going to find it. Look how small this bait is. Think about how dark it is at 40 foot. Is he going to really see that bait? He's probably not going to really see that bait down there that deep, that dark. So what I do is when I see a floater, I'll take my reel and reel it up really fast. I don't like to do it with the rod tip. Some people like to take the rod tip and jerk it up to them. I don't do that. Reel it up fast. That bait will come up and he'll see it. I just take your bait and just kind of like, hello, I'm down here, and then let it go back down to the bottom because he's immediately going to shoot over to it. Let that bait settle down to the bottom, and you can watch that little glow bulb just follow your bait all the way to the bottom. Ray, was there any time? I don't think any of my bites ever came while that bait was floating back down to the bottom. They were all
No, it would either get because we were reeling it up about 12 to 15 feet easily and dropping it back down. And a lot of times if they were suspended like that, they'd come down to chase it, or it would sometimes bring them out from underneath those laydowns down deep.
Yes.
And we saw them, and it's just one of those, okay, they weren't paying attention to it until we did that, and then they had to have it.
Yep. Just a hello. It's just like, I don't know. It's like I don't know what to tell you. It's like when you hear high heels clapping down the hallway. Somebody turns their head. That's what it's like. It's the only way I know how to explain it. Like, is everybody gonna look? Somebody's gonna look. You cannot help it. And that's what they do. When you reel it up and say hello, every time they're gonna at least get their attention. Now, you don't catch everyone when you do that, but you at least get their attention, and you're able to at least get a chance at getting that bite. If you would have kept your bait on the bottom, you don't have a shot at that fish. But just reeling it up really fast, and it's important to do it with the reel. I don't know why that works better, but use your reel and not your rod to bring it up really fast. You'll get his attention. He'll follow it all the way back down to the bottom. Let your bait go all the way back down. Do your doodle. And you want to tell them about the bite? I know a couple of guys in the app has already did that. You want to tell them about what that bite feels like when you're doodling?
That's it. Just
It's pressure.
so light. Well, and by the way, that reeling up thing, it's not like you do it immediately. That's after, okay, doodle, doodle, doodle. It's almost like a reset. So we're
Uh-huh.
doing it for a lot. And then, but yeah, that bite is nothing. If you've got a, well, let's
Like
say
a rubber.
if you're using a broomstick, you'd have never felt it.
You never feel it. This is what, you know what elastic feels like when you do this? You know what that feels like? That's what the bite feels like. You're doodle, 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 and then it just goes. It just rubber bands. Like, ah, dang, that thing's kind of tight. That's exactly what it feels like. What was it? There was something that came to my mind right then that I wanted to talk about that we kind of discovered out there on the water. It was something that I kind of started to notice too. What was it? I cannot remember. Oh, so another thing that happens, this wasn't it, but we should talk about this too. Every once in a while, you sit there, you doodle your worm on the bottom. We're fishing road beds. We're fishing timber edges. Road beds are really hot right now. Mike, we'll go to that clip of the road bed, the very first clip on the fishing clips, that very first one of the graph. A lot of times you just jiggle.
Really?
Let's start on this road bed here. A little bit of road bed in conjunction with the point. Let's start on this road bed here. A little bit of road bed in conjunction with the point. Should have some timber.
Yeah. Okay, so that's it.
What bait?
So we can go back to the regular screen now, Mike. Just the two of us. So we're fishing. That's what we're fishing. You see how it was just a big point with a road bed that runs across it. That's all that was. So when you're fishing a road bed, most of the time the fish are always, I'm talking about, glued to the bottom, like stuck to the bottom. When you're fishing a road bed, that's not something that you will at times idle across a road bed and see a few fish on your graph. But most of the time when you're fishing a road bed, if you see it, especially with spotted bass, just fish the road bed because those fish are so tight to the bottom that you won't mark them idling 3 or 4 miles an hour. Okay, with that being said, with the hello technique that we were talking about, you're jiggling down there, nobody. Sometimes you're like, all right, I'm gonna get ready to move, and you'd reel it up. And all of a sudden, 3 or 4 fish would just follow your bait as you're trying to reel it up to move to the next spot. It's just that they probably didn't see it. They're just scouring around looking for crawdads or look for whatever minnows on the bottom, shad. Most of their diet is shad, but we know from experience that they were definitely eating crawdads. When you say
We found a lobster.
we found a freaking lobster in the live well. We decided to keep a couple, and I'm talking about the biggest crawdad I've ever seen. So definitely eating those. But you can imagine if his nose is down on the roadbed, scurrying around looking for crawdads or whatever crawls on the bottom, they're not looking out 30, 40 foot at radius around them. And so when you reel it up and say hello, he's scooting around, oh man, and they'll come over there and get your bait. So it's just one of those things that it's like Ray said, it's a reset. Jiggle, 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 doodle, 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 nothing. You reel it up, get it up to 20 foot. Then all of a sudden they would come off the bottom. You're like, dude, we've been sitting here 30 minutes. Where y'all been? That's just another technique to get their attention, as I like to call it. So yeah, super fun technique. I don't think I've taken anybody out, whether they're shallow water fishermen or not, and not like that. Like Ray's from Florida, and he liked and caught on to it really fast. It's just it's addictive. It's addictive.
And the wind, the little breeze helped a lot too. That's another thing we noticed.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Let's talk about that. Let's put a pin in that right there. Okay. Wind. You would think when you're fishing deep that wind doesn't make a difference. It was already a bluebird day. It was already a calm day. But we had a slight breeze on day one. I don't know, 10 mile an hour wind, 10, 12 mile an hour wind. That is key to getting the fish to actually bite. You will mark these fish all day, all year long. They don't really move that much. You get a little bit of wind, that little bit of light refraction is all the difference. Let me tell you why.
those little ripples on the water creates light refraction. It's just like taking your blinds in your house and closing the blinds. All that light refraction, it makes it darker beneath. When it's just glass slick, all the light can penetrate straight through the surface, and it's brighter. How much brighter? I don't know, don't have a clue. I just know it's brighter when it's dead slick, and that little bit of darkness, just a little bit of shimmer, it just makes the fish a little more comfortable. Remember, bass love to set behind things, jump out and get them. That's why those fish are sitting in those laydowns that we're talking about. That laydowns feels like a little, he's safe in there, and he's gonna jump out and go get whatever he's preying on. Well, when you get that little bit of darkness down at 30, 40 foot, it makes a big difference in being able to get those fish to bite. It's a big deal. Wind makes a difference. Slick, calm days are always tough doing that technique, even at 30 or 40 feet. I'd actually prefer to fish shallow if it's dead slick, calm. It's the opposite of what you would think.
And not to throw a tangent in here, but that wind provided me with, like I said earlier, there's some things that you just can't teach on Zoom. Watching you control the boat. One of the things I said, when I get back to Florida, I'm just going to pick a very windy day. Today was too windy, where I was at Nokechobe, so I moved. Watching you control the boat, I've heard you talk about it, but watching you do it really made a big difference in like, aha, okay, this is how it's supposed to be done.
Such a big deal. It's such a big part of that fishing is boat control. You can't even do it if your boat's just floating around and you're letting it do whatever it wants to in the wind. You're just going to stay snagged up. You're never in position. You're never over the fish that you're actually marking. You know, basically your foot is almost like guiding the flashlight. So you're looking around in a dark room and you're using your boat as where you're pointing this flashlight to look to see what's out there. And if you're just letting it float to wherever, you're only seeing, you're essentially now we're seeing more than what we're on top of. But wherever your boat goes determines what you get to look at. And what you're on top of is what you can catch. Because at that depth, casting in timber, it's almost impossible to cast to a fish. We caught a couple at one point on a bro bed casting to them, but it really wasn't the deal doing it that way.
We broke off more than we caught. By the way, increasing the rear, this is going to sound weird to those who aren't familiar, increasing the reverse size made it so much easier because when the thing was spinning, we could actually still see our targets.
That's a great point. I'm glad you mentioned that. I should do, let me write that down. I probably should do a workshop on that. We didn't talk about that with Paul, increasing the reverse on the forward faces. So on active target 2, you got a transducer that's looking out in front of you and beneath you. You can also increase the setting to where that transducer is also looking. I don't know how far we can go back, but you know, we had ours set at 12 to 15 foot looking behind us as well.
I started at 5 and I set it to 15. It made a big difference. So
if you're in shallow water, you know, 5 foot's fine, but when you're fishing that deep, being able to also look behind you is a big deal. So now if those fish are coming into us, we have a heads up that, hey, Ray, hurry up and get down, hurry up and get down. They're coming. Because those fish don't just come straight in front of your transducer every time. They may come from the back of your boat, from the side, from the front. They can come enter at any given angle. And so increasing the reverse distance on your forward-facing sonar, I know that sounds crazy, it's forward pointing, but yet it still looks behind the boat to a certain degree. Increasing that, it just makes your glasses bigger. Your view of what you can see is a big deal. And that helped us a lot once we adjusted that, because we were just able to see the fish quicker. It takes a little bit of time to get a little bait like that down to 40 foot. But if you go to a big heavy bait, that doesn't work either. You can't just increase the weight. That's what we used to do back in the day with the jigging spoon. That doesn't always work. Mike, do we have any questions before I jump to this next subject? We're going to talk a little bit about the graphs.
Yeah, we've got a few. Tim Dodson asks, at what depth do you think the doodle technique becomes too shallow to be effective?
I'd say 12 to 15 and deeper. I've caught them as deep as 12 to 15. How deep you can catch fish doodling has everything to do with water clarity most of the time. Because if you're in 15 foot of water, but yet you have 10-foot clarity, the fish are very unlikely to swim under the boat, and if they do, they're going to be pretty spooky. They won't. They're not going to want to bite. 15 foot is like 2 rod lengths. 2 rod lengths under the boat. You think the fish is going to be like he's hearing all your clinging, you talking, thumping around, air, trolling motor, zip, zip, zip. Everybody's trolling motor now is mates all the zip, 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 zip. You think he's going to want to bite? Probably not. But if you got a little bit of green to your water, a little bit of brown to your water, you can still catch them 15, 12 maybe. Unless you're up north where they got them dumb fish, you can be an 8 and they'll probably swim under there and get it. Fishing for redfish or something, yeah, they'll probably get it. But bass fishing in most fisheries, I would say 15 foot would be a shallow. I'll tell you where I live. Once you start to get below 20, now you're acting crazy. I like to stay. For me, it's always been 25 to 40 is the sweet spot. You can catch them in 50 to 70, but they just keep getting smaller the deeper you go. The shallower you are, the bigger they are. I don't know why it works that way, but that's just how it works.
All right. What's the advantage of doodling over drop shot setup?
I'll let Ray contribute to this too. For me, I don't want to retile them not a separate hook and a sinker and a worm. I don't want to do all that. That's just my personal preference. But you could catch those same fish on the drop shot. We've done that We've done that a lot before. I just don't want to tie all that. Twist, more line twist, more terminal tackle. I will say this. Listen to me. The colder it gets, the more they get off a drop shot. I have a theory. It seems stupid, but I have a theory. I've seen in the wintertime, they will not fool with that drop shot. That little worm being that far off the bottom versus on the bottom, I don't know what it is, but sometimes they won't bite it when it gets really cold. Right now, our water's in the upper 60s, was it, Ray? Maybe even 70s.
Yeah, we were mid 60s, low to mid 60s.
It don't matter. They'd bite any of it now. When that water gets in the 40s, things get different. They get bigger. The bites become less. But I like to put the drop shot away at that point, personally. But I don't. You never did try it. I don't think so, right? The drop shot.
We didn't do a drop shot. As you were explaining that, I was thinking a little bit. We did notice, or I noticed because I was doing it wrong in the beginning, that moving the tip too much turned them off. So it told me they wanted something that particular day in those areas. They wanted on the bottom, and as I mentioned, it seemed like because we were only moving it a tiny little bit. I've had aquariums where I've had fish didn't do too well, and what do? They go to the bottom. They just kind of almost, as a buddy of mine said last night, vibrate a little bit. I think it mimicked a dying bait fish, or not bait. Yeah, basically a dying bait fish. That's what worked, because otherwise, me moving too much would have worked, and it didn't.
Yeah, it's not.
I could be wrong.
I know in salt that a lot of that bop 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 when we're shaking a minnow or something like that in saltwater, it just does not work. Like if you've ever watched a threadfin shad or any kind of shad, they really don't do much erratic movement. They really just kind of it's like they're almost gliding through the water column. They don't do a lot at all. I think that's why that bait works so good. It doesn't have a lot of action at all.
And with that amount of timber, you definitely be breaking off drop shot weights.
Yeah,
there's no question.
Yeah, it's just more. It's just more stuff to do. It's just more stuff to do. That's the only reason I don't tie it.
All right. Hey, I got another setup question. Could you use an underspin with this technique, or would it drag too much?
Yeah, nothing casting, because you drop the underspin right under the boat. You could 100% use an underspin.
it's just gonna take you so long to get that to the bottom. By the time you get that underspin to the bottom, I'm gonna call it 3 and reel them in. So with baits, we're always choosing the bait that lets us get to the fish in the most efficient way. When you're wondering what bait you should use, think of it that way. That's always the best place to start, is what bait can I get to where the fish are? I don't care if you're fishing in 2 foot. I don't care if you're fishing at 8 inches. The bait that lets you put the bait in front of the fish's mouth, his face, the most efficiently is always the best bait, every time. So just think about that for a minute. If you're fishing docks, would you use and this is probably a poor example. It's not often that you catch fish on docks on, let's just say, a crankbait. You do, don't get me wrong, don't y'all say, well, I'll call it 22. Listen, just calm down. I'm making a point. Calm down. You don't see people that love to fish docks use crankbaits that often. Because it's not the best bait to fish around a dock. It's kind of hard to cast. It gets in the air and does some weird stuff. You can never put it under a dock. You can, but it takes a lot of finesse. But let's say a jig, a shaky head, those baits, even a chatterbait, you can put it under that dock really well. People that like to fish docks, that's in their arsenal. So when we're fishing deep, we need baits, number one, that can get to the bottom efficiently. We need baits, number two, that are in the profile of the bait fish that they're eating. So it's just so hard. I just don't know. I don't know why. When you start getting outside of this profile and this size, you can catch fish on other stuff. It just starts to get like, why are you doing that? Why are you making this harder than it needs to be? There's a whole host. Like I said, we use jigging spoons. For people that don't know what a jigging spoon is, I got one on my wall. I'm gonna grab it. I know a lot of you may not know what a jigging spoon is. This is an old raggedy one. It's just a hunk of lead with a treble hook on the bottom. Look at that old rusty treble hook. That's all it is. The reason the jigging spoons work so well in this area of the country is because you can run this down to the bottom so fast. It's a 1 ounce piece of lead. That's painted white. I can sink that sucker in 40 foot in 2 seconds. It's efficient. I can get it to where the fish are. So think about that. If you're fishing around grass, a 6XD just ain't gonna be the best bait to use because you can't get it in the grass. That's why the chatterbait is so notorious for catching fish in grass. That's why a frog always put 2 and 2 with grass fishing. That's why shaky head is always used around docks, or jig is always used around docks or laydowns, because you can put that jig in the laydown and not get it snagged. You don't see, nobody talks about fishing a jigging spoon in a laydown. I can put it in a laydown, but I can't get it in there good. So as elementary as that illustration is, always think about where the fish are and what bait can I use to put it in front of the fish. That's why wacky rigs are so good. Wacky rigs are good at catching what kind of fish? Somebody's got to know. A suspended fish. He's not on the bottom. He's not on the top. He's in the middle, hanging out, chilling, being cool. Wacky rig comes in there. Everybody throws a shaky head. Bop, goes to the bottom. Everybody throws a jig. Bop, goes to the bottom. Everybody throws a crankbait. He wiggle, 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 wiggle to the bottom, come back to the top. And then you come in with wacky snap going. Stays in front of his face longer. That's how you pick baits. You don't pick baits because it's cool and it's trendy or something you've never seen before. That works once every other year. Something like that works. But you're using the bait that you can put where the fish are the best. You're using the bait that you can get his attention with the best. That's what baits are. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't go crazy with it. Don't go crazy with it. The stores are going to mess you up on this one. The YouTube videos are going to screw you over when it comes to baits.
They're gonna screw. They're gonna throw everything at you. You need this, and you need that, and you need this, and 2 of these, and 4 of these, and 8 of these, and 8. You need red, blue, green, purple. They're gonna mess you up with that. Ray and I used like what we had. This is what I took with him for 3 days. This is what I fished. I threw like there's 20 bags of plastic in here, let's say, and they're all the same thing. So look, this is a drop kickers in the deal, drop kickers in Shiner. I had some other minnow baits. That's like the 4-inch. We used that whole pack. That's more just minnow baits. I just had. They're all white. They're all white or shad, or maybe a little brown. I had some SMH worms and stuff. That's all I had, because I knew where they were going to be. I just wanted baits that I could get to where they're going to be. That's it. You don't see me little 10-inch worms. I didn't bring no jigs, because when they fished, they would bite a jig where we were fishing. I'm not waiting that long for that to get down there. Y'all go do that. I'm not doing that. It's too hard. Too hard. Throw my jig out there. Let it sink. I don't know if it's on the bottom, Jody. I think it's on the bottom. Can you feel it? Oh, it's hung up, Jody. Oh, take me over there to get it. Bro, I done caught 7 dropping down right under the boat.
On the same bait. Unless we got I used the same bait until I snagged. That was it.
Till you break it off, you don't need another one. Till you break it off. Exactly. Okay. Was there another question?
There's one more.
Okay.
Are the deep bass using sight or lateral line to find your bait?
I'd say in our situation, clear water sight. Unless you're in really dark water, the lateral line deal is probably not much of a factor. But there's sight and movement. Sight, which I guess is still lateral line. But yeah, it's sight. It's very clear that it's sight by the hello technique that we were talking about. Being able to you're not even remotely close to that fish when you do that. But you just kind of reel it up really fast. You'll see him come up and hit it. That's sight. Our fish are sight feeders. Spotted bass and clear water fishers are sight feeders. You're somewhere else in the world, it might be a little bit different, but these are all sight bass, no doubt. Okay. Okay, we're gonna spend a few minutes on this good part. Probably the most enlightening part was going out with Paul. So let me give y'all some background. As I mentioned, Ray signed up for the Elite Academy that we do here in the app, and part of that program is I hire a certified electronics technician to just take a look at your boat, make suggestions of things you need. We use Paul Geddes. He's done some classes here in the app with us before. I'm actually going to talk to him to see if we can get him to do something like on a monthly basis, like at least 1 or 2 lessons a month. Y'all let me know if you're interested on that, because he just gave away so many good gems that you can't absorb it all. You can't absorb it all. I don't remember how long we stayed out. Maybe it was 3 or 4 hours, Ray. I don't remember how long it was.
No, we met him 9 o'clock. We didn't put the boat back in the water on the trailer till 4, I think it was.
4. Yeah, and we
But
stayed.
we did spend time at his shop in the beginning.
Yeah, so Paul looked over his boat, just made a few suggestions. We did some cable harnessing, like just some cable management, and then we went on the water, and he just kind of showed us all the capabilities of the units. So, in full transparency, I know how to read electronics, but there's things on the electronics that I just don't give a fat cat about. I don't know, I don't care. I always tell Paul when he rigs my boat, Paul rigs my boats for me. I'm like, bro, get this thing to come on for me. I got the rest. And that's not a good attitude to have, but that's just usually what I do. But when I go out with Paul on the water, he always brings to my attention something that I didn't realize that my units will do that fits into the style of fishing that I have. And so I think I'm gonna go ahead and just spoil the beans. You're gonna have to just take a side. Like the scout mode that he showed us, that I was blown away by scout mode. I never use scout mode. I've turned it on. It looks like static on the TV most of the time. Whatever he did to raise graphs to make them as clear as he made them, I cannot wait to use scout mode now. I was that excited about it. I think. Hey, can you show Michael? I think at the end of that clip, or towards the end, there was one clip that says scout mode, maybe, or was it just fishing electronics? It's when he. It was just one screenshot. I just want people to see that. God, it was so good.
Give me just a second.
Yeah. While he's looking for that, Ryan, before we put that mount on there that I'd purchased, I played with scout mode a lot, and especially down here where we get big groups. It's very cool. It's even better than what we saw.
Yes, it is. So this right here, this is the scout mode. If you guys don't know what it is, so scout mode is when forward facing. We got a beam. I think he said it was like was it an 8-foot beam or was it not even an 8?
Yep, 8.
8-foot beam that you can use and point wherever you want to hit. Scout is you turn that this way. It's looking lateral, left or right, in front of you. And it's good for looking and finding fish and structures really shallow. 2 foot, 3 foot. We saw wolf packs. We found tires, blocks. This is what I liked about it. So Lake Hartwell is really clear right now. We went to Lake Hartwell for this. This is the way I would learn it. Get somewhere where the water is clear and you can see what you're looking at with your visual eye. Point your scout mode over there so you can tune your eye to know what things look like. So everywhere that we saw, we could visually see it in the water, but then we point a transducer at it so you can see what it looks like on the screen. So now when you can't see it visually, you know what you're looking at because you've trained your eye that that's a cinder block in the water. That's what it looks like on my screen. Are y'all following me? Let me know you follow me. Go somewhere where the water's clear so you can visually see what you're pointing your transducer at and look at it on the screen so you know what it is and you're not guessing. That's what we did. You can play, Michael. You'll see a few fish in here. There's one at about 1 o'clock right now. See it? See that? That's my bait coming back right there. That little dot. Now watch. I'm gonna make a cast and you'll see the splash. Watch this. Make a cast right there. You see that splash?
That's crazy.
That's crazy. That's it, Michael. That's all it is on that. That's all it is. We can go back to the normal screen. That is stupid to be able to see the splash that your lure makes when it hits the water like that. I have never, ever seen any kind of electronics be able to see the splash like that. We saw several wolf packs in the water using scout mode. Like I said, we found all kinds of little objects in the water. I was blown away. I can't wait to use that. When we go to Florida, I need to be on that. What was yours, Ray?
What was my what?
I would say
thoughts on it?
the coolest thing you noticed on that day with Paul.
Well, the scout mode, it was obviously eye opening. But like I said, I've played with it before, and I really do. I can't say I think I know. You know, when we're in vertical forward mode, we have a sense of depth up and down.
Right.
And as we figure out, it's only 8 feet. So if the return gets dark, we have to move the motor left or right to see which way it went. In scout mode, you do lose that depth, but if you're in very shallow water, and you really need that much depth for the ability to see the fish coming left, right, forward, back in real time is a game changer.
Crazy. I just didn't know you could see it that clearly.
Oh yeah, and when you, like I said, when you see them in large groups or different groups, and because it's depending on what you read, I think a single transducer is about 150-degree field of view horizontally,
Right.
and you can actually mount 2 of them to get even wider. Think about it; it's almost like real time, 150 times 2. It's almost 360. And that's Lowrance has a special thing for that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Wasn't it
just work. And I'm sorry.
Wasn't it a special bracket he said you could use to put the AT2 target?
Yeah, Yeah, they've got some special brackets. You can do two, like with the mount I have. You can put two of them on there, and what it does, it will stitch them together. So you see one continuous piece. That was obviously gold. The other part was watching him around the docks and the houseboats, and how he just broke it down, how he looks at it. Whether it's marking individual pieces or areas, and then also how he'll take for example, he'll mark off a roadbed, and
Yeah.
you've kind of validated you don't just fish it one way, you can fish it three different ways. The angles made a big deal.
Right. Right. I was really I haven't been sold on Scout just yet, but just seeing what we saw, I, especially if you like to fish shallow. I know we have quite a few people. Like Mac fishes like that swamp place with all the cypress trees. Can you imagine being able to see the cypress knees, being able to see brim beds, being able to see so much with that? I'm actually a little bit embarrassed that I haven't explored that more after going with Paul. I've turned it on, looked at it, and be like, I ain't got time for this today. I ain't got time for this. But we generally speaking tie electronics to deep water offshore fishing, but that ain't the case no more. That's not what we're dealing with. We're dealing with from 6 inches of water to 60. It's such a powerful tool to be able to find things. And Paul just really broke it down. Like I tell you, he does a really good job of explaining things so you can understand them. Sometimes technical guys can speak over your head and start using a bunch of kilohertz and hella kilowatts and all this stuff. And when you start doing that, I'm out. Don't talk to me. But he talks to you in a way that you can understand it, because Paul is a fisherman. Many people don't know this. Paul is a certified technician, but like, he's from my area. The guy fishes a lot of tournaments, so he knows the verbiage. He talks the same language that you talk, which makes it easy for you to understand what he's trying to teach you. I think about far. But let me know. I'm really having Paul in as an instructor in the app, to do some workshops just on his own. Like, I don't need to be involved. I want to be in the chat, not on the Zoom, to do some stuff with that. But I don't know if anybody else is interested in that. Doing some live classes in the app with Paul, and then I'd be interested to hear what's some other categories that we could bring some more instructors in with. Electronics is always one. I don't know. Is it like a boat mechanic? Like, let me know. Give me some ideas of some other instructors that we can have. Because listen, I don't know how to explain everything. Some things I just know how to do it, and I don't know how to explain it well. So I'd love to bring some other people to help keep the value for you guys.
Hey Ray, your audio's out.
Oh, is it?
Oh, there you go. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I was going to say, actually, as technical as we're talking, watching him how he uses 2D, 2D, that was it's definitely a viable thing, and especially the way he this basically how he processes the data in his brain, and translate it to what we're looking at. It's more than just looking at 2D versus downscan and validating. He quite informative on that.
Question in the chat: does he do Garmin, or is Lowrance the only thing he does?
Nope. He's fluid in every. He is just a certified Lowrance technician, but he has installed Garmin for me. He's installed Humminbird in prior time for me. He's very fluid in all brands. You have to have a specific brand. All knows it all. He installs it all. He has an electronic shop. So that's what he does. Is that doesn't matter. What were you just mentioning, Ray? Because I had something I wanted to piggyback off that. I forgot what it was.
2D.
I forgot that quick. 2D. So Paul, he also broke it down to how he uses the color palette. That particular color palette he's giving me, you can tell the size of the fish by the color that's showing up on your screen. The sound can give a different color on the Lowrance graphs, and you can tell how big of a fish you're looking at. You can't tell what species it is, because you can tell how big it is. From I can't remember, it was like 1 to 3 or 2 to 4 or something like that. How do you remember how you?
I texted that code to myself. The three different things. And by the way, any Lowrance users, they just with the latest update, that was a big thing. They released the update while I was traveling, and I quite frankly didn't feel like turning on my laptop. I thought, oh, it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
But they have new color palettes too for the forward facing, which I like. Brian didn't like them. I like them.
Yeah, I get stuck on a color palette and I just hang with the one. But there was that green one that he used, and whatever that was that he had on Scout, I like. I don't think I normally use that Scout color. The green one was nice, and then that Scout color was pretty good too. That's all. Yeah, awesome. What else would happen with Paul? The thing with Paul was probably I left refreshed. I felt like I went to church. You know what I'm saying? After I left Fish with Paul, I just left like you said. That was the light bulb moment for sure. Like it would come on, and then it really, really come on after fishing with Paul for a little while. Last thing we did, we'll hit just 4 or 5 minutes on this. Let you guys get on your day. My kids, hopefully they haven't torn my house down. So first day we fished deep. Second day we stayed with Paul. We really didn't fit.
Yeah, you're in and out, Brian.
Looked at our graphs, got all that.
Brian, you with me?
Yeah. Did I lose you? Sorry.
Yeah, you've been cutting in and out.
Sorry about that. I wish there was something I could do about it. So on day 3, we decided to fish shallow, and thank God that the weather just worked out perfect for us. When we on day 3 we decided to do some reaction baits. So we fished deep, got that figured out with the soft plastics. I wanted to show Ray how we pattern fish. So when you're fishing deep, oftentimes that's fishing a spot. So Daryl Rogers asked a good question in the community tab this morning about fishing a tournament and how to interpret his practice and how to know if his spot is good or not. When you're fishing deep like that, those are spots. And that's a place I'm going to go back in the tournament. I'm going to spend a lot of time in that one spot because I know the bait is there. I know the fish are there. A pattern is when we take a lure, we take a type of structure, whether that be points, whether that be humps, docks, and we duplicate that all across the lake. So we go from fishing a specific spot to now we're taking a way that we can catch fish and duplicating it all around the lake. And so we did that on day 3, and thank God that the weather lined up perfect for us to where the weather was, we needed a little bit of wind, we needed a little bit of clouds for it to be the best. It doesn't have to be that. Boy, we got some wind. It was pretty windy on the last day, if I'm remembering right. It was like probably 10 to 15 degrees.
It was
Good
pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, good wind. Perfect for a jerkbait. And so what we did, and this is so simple. If you go back, we did a live on this. I did a 12 o'clock live, and I just let it run for the rest of the day. We took the jerkbait. Very simple. Listen, I don't have anything fancy to tell y'all. Deep points. That's all it was. Any point that dropped off into deep water was the key. So, Michael, will you roll that last clip on there of me fishing some points? You see me fishing the jerkbait. I want you to look at my retrieve on the jerkbait. A lot of people say, is it getting cold? You need to be doing all this and that with the jerkbait. No, I'm flying. Let's go. Boogie, boogie. Boogie, woogie. Right here. So this is some fish come up schooling right here that you're about to see. You watch real close. See them come up? I was about to whip it out there. See, I'm whipping that jerkbait pretty fast. I lost this fish, but still it's cool. It's still cool to catch him right there. You can let that just play for a little bit, Mike.
Oh, he chopped off again, bro.
You better check them hooks.
Oh, God.
They been out?
Nah.
This rod was super long to me, which is what I just had. 7.2, not 7.
Oh, okay.
Timing's way off.
See how fast we're working that jerk bait?
I just like the extra pop I can get with the bait caster versus the.
There he is. There too. I highlighted that.
Yeah, they're a little
not
drop.
because it's the biggest fish, but I want you to see that was a good POV of how fast I'm working that jerk bait this time of year. Bring it back. Don't give that fish time to think about it. Throw it out there, get that bait jumping, dancing around. We caught, I don't know how many we caught the last day doing that, but it's typically not the best numbers wise with the jerk bait, but we caught, I don't know, 15 plus fish. Just a point.
Just a nice little,
Fine.
pound and a half
Nothing special.
spot.
That's it. Was there anything at all that stuck out to you about that last day, Ray, at all?
The key, like just to expand on what you said, the key to it was lining up deep, casting shallow, and bringing it back along with the contour of the ledge. Yeah, like you had already said, the obvious, the cadence. I was trying to match your cadence. It's really not too much different than I normally do. But yeah, it was really about how you set up, and you made it very clear. We're gonna fish this deep point. We catch one, we're gone. We're not going to sit around and try and play. There were so many points we could choose from. So that was key too. It was a lot, and plus one jerk baits, not the shallow ones, especially with what we were doing. It had nothing to do with line. It had nothing to do with anything else. The conditions were right. I got smoked. On my specialty thing. Brian smoked me. But at one point, I just looked. I'm like, this ain't working. I picked up a lipless and I was just casting a line to get wet. I'm like, yeah, I was tired. But no, it's not an excuse. I did notice one thing though. When I looked at the tip on your rod versus the tip that I typically use for jerk baiting, I could see a distinct difference, and I've already got some ideas in my head of which rods I'm going to switch to using jerk baits, especially in that deep. That has a lot to do with it because I do jerk baits in 3 foot of water, 4 foot of water, maybe 6.
Right. Yeah, jerkbait is something I fish a lot around here. When we fished Hartwell, a lot of that weight that I had in that top 10 at Hartwell and Tackle Warehouse, a lot of it was on a jerkbait first thing in the morning. It just works so good in Clearwater lakes. If any of you guys have a Clearwater lake, I'm not much into saying baits work, bait putting two together, but a jerkbait is so good when you get a little bit of wind on a steeper point. If they're feeding on bait, it just works so good. And you catch big ones doing it. Your chances on Russell right now of catching a bigger fish on a jerkbait is astronomically higher than it is doodling. But when you put the two together is when it really gets fun. Because one of the things that I was hoping to do with Ray, and we did do it a little bit, is we do this thing, especially in team tournaments, where one guy's throwing a jerkbait, the other guy's throwing the jerkbait, but he's watching the grab to see if we pull any off the bottom, or if you catch one and bring the fish to the boat, you'll see a lot of on the graph under the boat and using a drop bait to catch those fish that you're bringing back to the boat too. Key though, there's really only 3 things you need to remember about fishing reaction baits this time of the year on reservoirs, which like Russell is a reservoir. Steeper points are definitely the thing. Like Ray said, there's a lot of points on that lake. There's points everywhere you look. How you know which one to fish with? You look in your units, look for the ones that have the steepest lines. And then also, I think for the ones that have the most wind makes it are the best ones. Steep, closer to any of the river channel or creek channel, that helps. It doesn't have to be river or creek channel. That's always a good thing. One of the best ones that we caught the most fish on just had a bunch of rocks on it. It was sort of like a secondary right off the main lake. We didn't catch any big ones, but it was I don't know. We caught one every cast for maybe 10 casts, 10 or 12 casts there. It was steep, had a lot of rocks on it. You could see the rocks, but the boat was setting in like 60. So that may not be 60 where you live. If you're in Florida, you're throwing at 1 foot and your boat's in 10. That's steep. Just wherever the steepest contour is. You don't need to set in 60 like I'm saying, because your lake may not set up for 60 foot of water. It's just where the steepest contour is. The jerkbait is so good for that. So definitely keep that in your arsenal as you go into these next few months, really all the way through the winter. I could go through all the way through the winter and throw that same bait on the same places. Those fish do not move. They do not leave those places. I'll catch them in March doing the same thing. I'll catch them in January doing the same thing. I'll catch them in November. Same places doing the same thing because that's where the bait is all the time. All right.
I would, Brian, actually, I would say one of the keys to success that we had was before we went out, there was a plan. There was an agenda of what we were going to do. Just not high level topics, but that was the plan written down. And then we followed it as much as we could. And you see bait balls, it's kind of hard to stop. But I really think that had a lot to do with the knowing of what we were going to do, how we were going to do it, and more importantly, why we were going to do it. Proved to be not only a lot of catches, but it's back to seeing it all play out in action, all the little subjects we've talked about over the course of time. It's just great education.
I was saying this in the app earlier today. I've been doing these classes more like a classroom setting, like a boards, points, etc. I thought about taking this footage that we have from our outing and making it more of a vlog format. And if it's okay with you, I may share with the community that little group of slides that I sent you before we went fishing, because we did have a plan. So I sent Ray the night before, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 slides of about Lake Russell, what our plan was. It was just our lake breakdown process. Just share with him what lives in the lake, and what baits we were going to fish and how we were going to do them around what structure. So you got at least you're headed in a direction when you get to the lake, so you don't get there and go, what the duh. Like we got somewhere we're at least starting. Now, lucky for us, we did get started like within the first hour or so. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes it's 3 or 4 hours. Sometimes it's a couple of trips. You heard that right. Sometimes I go a couple of trips. Ray, do you remember I said this to you? People always say this. Y'all heard this so many times. And I know a lot of y'all probably believe it. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting the same result. Expecting a different result. I cannot tell you how many times I do the same thing over and over. And I do, in fact, get a different result because I know it works. I just haven't found it yet. That program that I sent Ray the night before, it's going to work. But if I'm in the wrong area of the lake, which I guess essentially me changing the area of the lake is me doing something different. But I know this program, these baits, and that the fish are going to do this because that is just the inherent nature of that lake. It has threadfin shad. It has spotted bass. It's fall. The water temperatures are cooling. Those bass are going to be doing that. I just got to figure out where. So yes, I will do the same thing over and over and over until I get a different result. I know I am a little bit crazy, probably.
Like you always say, road beds were key. Structure was key.
Yeah.
Wind helped a lot.
Yes.
And if we would have fished flip flop areas, we would have had probably a different result. If I can't remember if we started north or south, whichever end. Because think about the first day was a lot easier than the third day.
Yes.
But the third day wasn't horrible. It's just the first day was pretty easy.
Really good. Yeah, it's just really good. Yeah. Exactly. All right. Great time. I really enjoyed this trip. I'll put together a vlog about this, about our trip. I've got a lot of footage from those 3 days. I've been working on it, sifting through it. I'll have that up in it may be next week. I'm working on it now, but maybe by the end of the week for sure. Next week, I know. And it's a lot of gems that we just didn't have time to cover in this guy that you guys will be able to see, feel, and touch, and see how we broke the lake down. Any last thoughts, Ray, before we jump off here?
Thank you. At the end of the day, it was an amazing opportunity, and I will say, I'm not trying to sell classes for you or anything else like that. I just can't. I wasn't going to fish any more tournaments for the rest of the year. That's the last thing I told you. I'm doing Okeechobee this weekend and Kissimmee next weekend. I can't wait to take this in the context of my bodies of water that I'm fishing, and just keep building on it. So
I'm
thanks.
glad.
It was amazing.
I'm glad. My goal was I didn't want you to come here and feel like it was something that was going to show you something like groundbreaking, which is a couple things Paul shows groundbreaking. But I like when people come fishing with me and they think, "Oh, I can do this." Like that's my goal. My goal is to show you like it's not hard. I don't want you to come here and think, "Oh man, I've got a lot to learn." I love when I take people fishing. They're like, "Oh man," like what you just said. I want to fish a couple more tournaments because now this I see how easy this actually is. That's my whole goal is that you think fishing is literally fundamentally easy. It can be. It can really be. It's always like simple. It's not a bunch of things. It's always like two things. Sometimes one thing. It's always that way. So I'm glad to hear that. It makes me feel good. Uh, anybody wants to? Anybody interested in? I have room for one more academy before the end of the year, and then we'll start over fresh in 26. Just reach out to me. You can just send me a message in the app. My email, brian@sufschool.com. I know, Tom, you reached out. I'll follow up with you today. I think I still have your number, Tom. I'll reach out to you if you're watching live today. If anybody's interested in doing a trip, just reach out. We'll get with you, get you hooked up. I promise you, it will be an experience that will open your eyes to a lot of things in fishing. I can talk to you here on the app and in live classes, but when you experience it in real time, it hits differently. Like Ray said, it really does. All right, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in on the live tonight. Ray, appreciate you taking more time to spend here in the app. Glad to hear everything, and you got back safely to Florida. Just reach out anytime something comes up, or I know Paul talked a lot. I don't know if you have Paul's number. He'd be more than glad to follow up if you need any instructions.
Yeah. Ironically, I found a pair of eyeglasses in the back of my truck, so I called Paul, and I was like, "Hey man, I think your glasses are here." He goes, "No, I got them on." I said, "Okay." He said, "Well, thank you for." He probably thought I was calling because something was wrong. I'm like, "No, I figured I'd have to drop them off," but it was the case. So again, it was just, it was great. I probably do it again. I might book another one.
Yeah, that'd be great. I love that in the spring. We could do sight fishing. You need to know how to do that in Florida.
You have? Oh yeah, well, you need to refine my technique in sight fishing. I do it now. By the way, I will send you the pictures I took of the place you put me up at. That way you know exactly what's there. I'll text it to you.
Great. Definitely do that.
Thanks again. Loved it.
Sure. Appreciate you. Michael, thank you as well, man.
Yep.
Have a good rest of your night.
See you guys.